Hello, everybody. Andy Jacob here with the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series. I have a great show today. This is a great show because when we sit around at DotCom Magazine, we always talk about how important it is as a business to have your numbers right. I mean, if you don't have a great accounting team or an outside accounting team to help you put it all together, you've got big problems as an entrepreneur, as a startup, or even a company that's a Fortune 100 company. It all starts with really what we're calling the back office of accounting. So we've gone through the Rolodex and we brought a real leader in the field on the show. He's got a great company. I mean, what he's doing is so interesting. It's sort of an on-demand CFO concept. And if you haven't heard about anything like this, wait till you hear what Noah Hopton is doing at the Finvisor company. I mean, it's so remarkable. He has so many satisfied clients right now. The reviews are remarkable. Noah, welcome to the DotCom Magazine Entrepreneur Spotlight Series today.
Andy, thanks for having me.
It's great to have you. I mean, I look at what you're doing with Finvisor, I mean, you're able to provide such deep insight to really the unique challenges that each company faces at each stage of their growth. So let's get into it. Let's pull the lens back to 30,000 feet. Tell us about Finvisor, and then we're going to get into it.
Yeah, so started the company 7 years ago. Realized that it's being from the Bay Area, there's all these small businesses and startups that weren't really at the size where they needed a whole accounting finance team in house, but they didn't have someone doing the actual role. And so it was a lot of founders that were an engineer that were trying to do their own bookkeeping. And so created the company to kind of support those founders and entrepreneurs. And so now 7 years later, we're a team of CPAs, finance, payroll, HR experts that are basically an outsourced member of your team. And so we sit there doing your monthly bookkeeping, we'll process your payroll, we'll help you review your benefits and figure out what medical, dental, vision plans make sense now, as well as you scale and grow. A lot of our clients are in that, they start with us when they're 3 to say 20 employees, and they're just kind of got their first round of funding. And then we've been with clients up to say 600 plus employees. When you get to 600 plus, there's some things we start to table back to the client, say, hey, you should now handle this piece of the puzzle. But we always are trying to put in things that will grow with clients and scale with them with both when they're 5 employees, 15 employees, and 500.
That's great, Noah. I mean, what a great concept. So let's talk about it, because sometimes you have a founder or sometimes you have someone that is in startup mode, and maybe they're a technologist, maybe they're a marketing person, maybe there's something else, but the one thing that they're not is they didn't go to school for accounting. They didn't go to school for, the numbers. They didn't go to school for how to tick and tie everything at the end of the month and along the way. But like you mentioned, I mean, in startup mode, you don't have a chance really to hire a full-time accountant to come on staff. So how do you insert Finvisor into the startup company's sort of business model?
Yeah, so we'll start with something like the back office and monthly bookkeeping. And so, a lot of our clients start out and they don't have revenue yet. And it's how do we go, and they're how do we, so they're in QuickBooks Online or Xero, and they're trying to do their own accounting, but they're not accountants, like you said. And so usually we'll start with saying, hey, why don't we go through, clean up the books or close the books historically. I mean, we've had clients that come to us and they've had 3 or 4 years of never doing their accounting. And that really provides a good picture of what has happened. And also what's going, what their progress is month over month. But then the bigger picture for us is also what's going to happen and helping them put in place a plan. And so that's where we're on the kind of fractional CFO side, we'll sit and put together a 3, 4, 5 year financial plan around, okay, great. This is where you are right now. We can look at what's happened the last, say, year and a half. But let's think about where we're actually going to go in the next 2 or 3 years. And put in place both a hiring plan, a revenue plan, test some of their logic. A lot of our clients enjoy working with us because we kind of are the pre-screen before they talk to their investors around, okay, does this actually make sense financially? Am I missing some kind of key part of the business that I should be that I should be including in my expenses? And so that's kind of how we usually will start. It's think about first the monthly accounting piece, and then looking forward around, okay, what's the bigger picture? What's the plan? So that way, in future months, we can look at budgets versus actuals and say, hey, where did you spend last month? What did we think you were going to spend last month? And realize, oh yeah, you hired a couple of people earlier than we expected. Now you're spending another $15,000 a month because of those, new seats. There's also other parts of the back office where we'll typically help clients out. That's your payroll, HR, and benefits side of things. So usually when clients are getting set up, it's like, great. It's always that chicken before the egg scenario of, hey, I'm a founder, I'm on Cobra, or I'm on my wife's plan, but I'm actually now going to hire my first employee. How do I get my plan set up? And that's where we'll talk them through, okay, this is what we need to do to get a plan in place. This is the best offering for both you individually and for your next employee. Put in place a kind of contribution schedule for the employees and the dependents that both is like economical for the company, but also can help you get the right level of talent that you're trying to obtain. And so really kind of get all the systems in place as you're kind of starting to build out the, maybe your first couple hires. Other than that, there's like the typical compliance tax questions that come up that we help clients get through. There's a lot of new benefits out there for clients, like the R&D tax credit and the employee retention credit that came through because of COVID. The goal is not for every single founder to have to become an expert of that, but to have someone that's, in their court, making sure that they are applying for these things, getting the money when they can. And that's also where we'll kind of step in and speak up proactively around, hey, we think you'd be a good client to go for the R&D tax credit. You can get up to $250,000 back on your taxes. Even if you're not even paying income tax, it's against your payroll taxes. So it's a nice, good way to get some extra cash flow to hopefully continue the growth of the business.
Yeah, I love it so much. It's such a smart business you and your co-founder have put together at Finvisor. When I think about it, obviously startup founders and people that are in that beginning stage of the formation of their business, they have big dreams. And they're going to grow, and they're going to grow it to heights that they want to grow it. And what I love about what you've been able to do, Noah, is you start with them early, but as they grow, you're able to grow with them. So let's talk about that strategy, because that's really worked for you very well at Finvisor.
Yeah, I mean, so a lot of our clients, they say it's like they've done a friends and family round, so they only got, say, $500,000, and the idea of spending hiring a full-time accountant for, say, $60,000, $100,000 a year is way out of the picture. But then also the idea of like, every dollar out of your, to pay for your accountant is a dollar not going towards whatever it is else that's mission critical at the moment. And so that's where we put together some very like simple plans around, okay, great, for let's just say $399 a month, you can get both a CPA or a controller level accountant that's reviewing your books and a staff accountant that's closing your books and helping you out, just get the processes in place and the monthly books closed. But then as you grow and you need more support ad hoc, we can grow with you. And so some of our earlier clients, the monthly work that they're paying us for is only, say, 0 to 5 hours. But then as they grow, we have clients that are spending 40 hours of work with us each month. And that way we can kind of grow and add members of our team to support you. We're a bigger team, so there's people that can jump in and out as you have projects that needed. So another good example is clients will go through an audit and they don't have the bandwidth to help with an audit. We can definitely step in and say, okay, great, we have another person that can spend 30 hours that month, pull in all the requirement docs and issuing them to your KPMG, Deloitte, whoever hopefully you've gone through the Big Four accountant for doing your audit. There's a bit of a process involved, and so we're helping you basically, quarterback that process, so then you can still focus on the business and grow with it.
Yeah, I love it. No, of course, this reminds me of Shark Tank a little bit, because, if you watch Shark Tank, some of the founders go into the tank and they don't have their numbers straight. And sometimes their valuations are wrong. And if they don't know the numbers and their valuations are wrong, they get eviscerated on Shark Tank, of course, by one of our favorite sharks, Mr. Wonderful, Kevin O'Leary. He'll chop them down pretty good. But one thing I love about what you do at Finvisor is you give really advice on growth strategy, and really your company can help the younger companies sort of get ready for their board meetings or get ready to go talk to their potential investors. Let's talk about that aspect of the business, because that's a powerful value add that you guys offer.
Yeah, no, and that's where, I think a lot of clients, as they grow with us, even when they're in the early stage, they might not need a fractional CFO every month, but there's just going to be times where they need someone that's like, hey, can you help us make sure our numbers make sense? Can you look through our hiring plan? There's all these unique, they're less unique for us because we deal with them all the time with our clients, but unique, company life events where it's like, hey, now we're going through our due diligence for our Series A, or now we're looking at a term sheet. And we had the benefit and purview of we've seen several of these before. And so we both know what are good terms for you as a business and kind of what the market is right now. And so a good example is when our clients, they go and raise a couple $1 million and it's like, hey, should we go get a line of credit from the bank? the banks, the terms for what an actual, like, what you're going to get from the bank are all pretty standardized, but in terms of what they're going to offer you, it's a pretty wide range. And so we can know, hey, you should be talking to SVB, Comerica, Bridge Bank, to give you a good idea of like where we see the best fit for you, for both the best bang for your buck, but also letting you know when you should push back on certain items and say, hey, you know what, we've really seen clients go to a 24-month period for the line of credit, not 12 months, because 12 months is a pretty short amount of time. Do you really want to go through the whole headache to renew the line of credit at month 12, 13, or to see if you can extend it for 2 years? And usually you actually save money extending for 2 years anyways, because all those like upfront fees are paid one time. So that's where we kind of step in, help people figure it out, kind of what's the best thing for the transactional level, whether or not it's going through due diligence, whether or not they're going to get, acquired or just raising a round of capital. But also with like the board meeting and board deck support, a lot of, I would say, I'm always impressed with our clients. They're like engineering and their software and product slides are always beautiful pictures of like, hey, this is what we're like designing. This is what the dashboard is going to look like at some point. But then they're like have few and far between details around the numbers, and they're like, oh, we don't actually know what to talk about here. And that's where we'll step in. And we're not your product people, but we can definitely be your numbers people and say, hey, this is where you're currently at. This is where your next quarter, expectation is going to be on burn, and letting you know kind of both how much details to provide to your board and what are the appropriate, numbers that hopefully they're looking to see based on your trajectory and growth strategy.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. I look at what you do sort of in two different sort of pods. One is the management consulting area where you're really an on-demand CFO, and then you've got the back office component, which is the accounting, the compliance and tax, the payroll, HR benefits, and things like that. Let's talk about your team, because you've been able to grow an amazing team, fantastic people. When you hire someone to join your staff and join your team, what are you looking for? Are you looking for honesty? Are you looking for integrity? Are you looking for background experience? For someone to get on the Finvisor team, what's the most important things that you're looking for someone to join?
Yeah, so, I always say we have a unique mix of accountants here in that, yes, we're looking for someone who has book smarts, who has a strong accounting background. But on the unique side of our coin is we're looking for someone that you can connect with and can communicate with the client effectively and efficiently. A lot of people go into accounting because it's the back office. They get to go behind a desk and not talk to the founder and CEO that often. But in the world that we live in, there's a little bit less of a curtain. You're going to be talking to founders and CEOs all day long if you work at Finvisor. And so a lot of the people who we have that have been successful and that we are looking to hire are that kind of unique mix of both book smarts, but also a can do, work for you, connect with you around both like your everyday life and like the numbers and accounting side. And so it's usually like a really good, healthy relationship with our clients because they enjoy working with us. It's not like the accountant that you really hate to call because they throw numbers at you that you don't understand. We're trying to be the accountant that both knows the numbers, but can also explain them to you in a way that's approachable and that can connect with you so that you can then hopefully remember them and use them when you're in your board meeting and not just be like, oh, I need to check with my accountant on that. I don't, it was over my head at the moment.
Yeah, that's powerful. And it's so great that you mentioned that because back in the old days, and I'm an old guy, the accountant was always the person, the man or woman that was sort of in the back in a small little room and they had their calculator and, we didn't have computers back then. And, they were most of the time sort of out of the picture. But in your particular case, what you've been able to do at Finvisor is hire people that not only have this unique expertise in accounting, but also have the ability to communicate sometimes what is complicated numbers and factors and outcomes to the entrepreneur so they understand it in a way that's meaningful to them. So let's talk about that, how you've been able to bridge that gap.
Yeah, there's a bit, obviously we're training our team all day long around, hey, what's the expectation from the founder's perspective? When you're sending an email, if you send a client an accounting email and it's 6 paragraphs long and it's like all, just lots and lots of details, but like really, it's so easy just to gloss over from the founder's perspective. We've provided something of useless value to them. And so what we try to do is say, hey, great, let's condense what we're sending to the client, have it really highlight the actionable items, saying, hey, this is what we need you to help us with. Here are the big takeaways. And so that way, the TLDRs that people use with marketing and other details, they kind of get that quick kind of synopsis of what's going on with the company. We also try to find people who are really tech savvy, so we can meet clients halfway with whatever mode of communication they're using. So Slack is a big one that we're on all day long. A lot of our clients are on Slack. We've shared channels with our clients, and that way, just like when they have an emergency on the product side, they can message us on the accounting side or on the payroll side saying, hey, unfortunately, we need to let someone go. Can you guys connect? And we're immediately with them as if we were a full-time employee, because we're with them on the same channels that they're talking with the rest of their team.
Yeah, I love it. It makes all the sense in the world, Noah. This is fantastic. Now, one thing we know that startup founders and younger companies, small to mid-sized companies, always think about is growth. And you're such a, integral part of so many companies growing right now with your offering at what you do. But when we think about your company, scaling and growing, what's the next evolution of Finvisor? How do you continue to grow at this amazing pace that you've been able to develop over the past, number of years?
Yeah, I mean, for us, we're always looking to complement our services that we have. And so there are other kind of on the tax side, offerings that we're going to be providing to clients as we continue to grow. Since, as I started the company 7 years ago, a lot of if you look on our website now, there's a lot of stuff we do now that we didn't do 7 years ago. And the nature of our growth has been, we've seen that clients that we've had have had issues with their tax accounts or had issues with their benefits brokers. And we're like, well, why have a separate cook in the kitchen if we can bring someone in-house that can then own that for you? And then you have at least a team that's both your accounting, your payroll, your benefits. And so we've kind of really had great growth with being able to kind of consolidate some of your back office services for companies. I think the other thing we're working on is, better ways to have data for clients. And so as we continue to grow, we're putting a lot of, let's just say like automated KPI packages together for clients. So that way, instead of it being like ask your account for information, it's like, oh, go to the dashboard that Finvisor has created for you. So you can then see what your, MMR is, or you can see what your, churn is, whatever the details are from the financial side. And then have that information already kind of accessible to you, rather than it being, again, like you said, accountants back in the day, it was like email your accountant, they send you a PDF, here's your financials, do what you will with them. We're really trying to make it so it's really obtainable at your fingertips information. I think the other last part of our growth that we're really working on in the next year or so is putting together more of an internal for clients dashboard of their own information. We house so much information around state tax information, payroll information, benefits information, where you are at with certain processes. And, there hasn't really seemed to be a good tool for clients to be able to obtain that information. They can say, log into Finvisor's dashboard, and that way we can see what our, policy is for workers' comp and our policies for our health insurance plans, as well as looking at, what's our reimbursement policy for meals and entertainment for the team. A lot of these things are kind of loosely tied together with people's handbooks, or they're loosely tied together. And a lot of people, it's how often does your employee go back to their handbook to go look up some information? And how often are you actually updating that information? And so we have all that on our side, and we're trying to put that to be more at our clients' fingertips. I think that's something that we're kind of working towards currently, and excited to kind of hopefully launch in the near future.
Yeah, that'll be great to watch that and watch the dashboard come about. It's going to be remarkable. Now, Noah, when we think about it, you not only work with, startup companies, you work with small to mid-sized companies as well, and perhaps even larger. But what's the onboarding process look like? Somebody's heard about you, they've read your reviews, maybe they've seen this interview, or, people are talking about Finvisor, in chat rooms, or online, chat rooms, maybe not so much, but online.
Yeah. There are some
and what's the onboarding look like? I mean, how do they get engaged? What's that first call look like? Who are they talking to? What's the process to come on board?
Yeah, so we try to be quick on the onboarding. We realize that switching accounting or getting accounting set up is never a fun process. And so, the first, let's say 4 or 5 days, which can be quicker, it can be 1 day if a client's quick enough. It's really just getting the access that we need. So we want to have visibility to your bank accounts, your credit cards, your payroll software. And in that way, we don't have to ever ask you for that information. And so once we have all the access that we need to then do your accounting, then we start going through the cleanup, if there's any historical information that needs to get put together. During that time, we'll also ask if there's any high pressing tasks that you need from us. So sometimes clients will come to us and say, hey, Noah, we now just raised a bunch of money. I have a bunch of legal bills I haven't paid yet. They're just sitting on my desk. Can I just send them to you? And we'll say, great. While we're getting your accounting set up, we can also go ahead and both record all the historical bills that you have, so they show up in the prior periods in the right time frame. But then we can also start to pay those and take those off your plate. And so we'll both be prioritizing kind of like urgent tasks, but also making sure like the bigger picture is coming together in that first second or third week. And our goal is like by the fourth week, within like 25 to 30 days, you're up and running with us. We know who you are, your systems are in place. You have, if you didn't have QuickBooks or Xero, you now have an accounting software. It's tied to some maybe bill payment platform. It's also linked to your credit cards. And then that way, month 2, month 3, the interaction with us is really around the numbers and less around getting us details around, hey, what was this check image for? Because we can log into your bank account and see that check image. And so I say most clients, our goal internally is to be 30 days or less. There are some edge cases where clients that come to us with 3 years of information, it's going to take a little longer than 30 days. But we also have clients that, they just raise funding and they open the bank account in January. And in that situation, we'll be up and running in 3 days with them because there's a lot less cleanup historical work to be done.
Yeah, I love it for the type of expertise and background and experience that they're receiving from Finvisor. That's a very short period of time for onboarding. So congratulations on making that onboarding as simple and easy for the entrepreneurs as possible, because they're so busy running their businesses. They don't want to think about this other component that they're bringing the experts in to help them with from Finvisor. Let's talk about entrepreneurship. You appear to be a young man. Congratulations on what you built. Some younger entrepreneurs are probably going to be watching the show and they're going to say, wow, he's built a great company already. They're one of the leaders in the field. Has Noah ever experienced a problem? Or maybe we have some entrepreneurs that are having a difficult time or having a pothole in the road, or maybe they're hitting a wall that they don't know how to get through. Maybe, Noah, you can share some insight on what it takes to get through a tough time or a pothole in the road as an entrepreneur and come out the other side having become very actually happy that you went through the pothole in the first place.
Yeah, no, it's funny. I was talking to one of my employees about how 4 years ago, we were growing at let's just say a slow to moderate clip. Most of our growth was just client referrals, which is great. And we love getting client referrals because that means clients are happy with the work that we're doing. But that also means that you're kind of at the whim of your clients. If clients have kind of referred you around to their friends' network, growth kind of slowed down for us for a little bit. So there were times where things were a little bit slow for us. And that's where we're like, all right, well, we got to really focus on our website and figure out kind of how we can get a little better SEO. I mean, if you looked up our company, we're on page 3 of Google, which is not very helpful for anyone to find you. And so we really kind of reworked the whole website. We talked with the marketing team. I had talked to a couple people and known that this is a long game. It's not overnight that just all of a sudden people start finding your website. But now, I'd say we're about a year and a half later. It's amazing kind of the outcome to have that kind of foresight long term to say, hey, let's start doing the process now and let's start becoming a little more of a thought leader around posting articles and helping clients understand. So that way we can gain traffic organically through search. And I think that was something that really we didn't have for the first, let's say, 5 years of the company. And at some of those 5 years, things were great. Clients were inviting us to their friends and network. Other times things were slow. And now we've nicely kind of removed that pain point because we're a little bit more, we're easy to find. You look up Finvisor.com, we'll be at the front of the website. So that was one of the things I think we didn't really ever think about was marketing. And we're accountants. It's not a huge surprise that marketing and the website wasn't the key priority for us. I think the other thing was the branding and name. We actually did a name change about 3 years ago. We originally were called Foresight ASG. Don't ask what ASG is. No one really knows. It technically was Advisory Services Group. But if you can think a name like Foresight's pretty common. And I think what we learned early on was that we didn't have a way to identify ourselves. Yes, people could know, hey, Foresight's great, and we had clients referring to us. But candidly, people were going to the wrong Foresight sometimes. But I had a client that reached out to us saying, hey, the financial model we downloaded from you doesn't work. Can you guys help us fix it? And we're looking at this model being like, what what is this? So like, we didn't create this. And then we said like, where did you download this? Because we actually don't even have like a pay and download a financial model on our website. And they had found like some other Foresight website that they thought was us, paid them thinking that they were getting, the actual output from the client that they're from the firm that they work with. And so that's when we realized, hey, if we don't have like, if Foresight, because there's like Foresight accounting, CPA, so many different options out there, doesn't differentiate us enough, we probably need to rethink. And we went to Finvisor about 3 years ago, and it's been great ever since. When you hear the name Finvisor, there's no other one out there. So it's nice to have something that when clients do want to tell their friends, hey, reach out to Finvisor, we know that they'll be able to find us.
Yeah.
And so
love it. I love it. You've done such a great job with the branding, of course, and for the entrepreneurs watching the show, of course, this is what Tony Robbins calls CANI, constant and never ending improvement. And what Noah's talking about is, as an entrepreneur, you never have it all completely figured out. You work along a process. And sometimes, you put the root into the ground at the beginning, you water it, you watch the tree come up very slowly, and then all of a sudden it grows up to be a big, big, beautiful redwood in the California, Muir Woods, right? Noah coming from Northern California, of course. Wow, what a great interview. I'm going to bring you back on the show. I'm going to bring you back to talk specifically about how younger entrepreneurs and startup founders can get ready to talk to investors, what they need, how to tick and tie it, how to present it properly, how to get ready for some board meetings as they start putting their board together, because I know you and your team have a great expertise in that as well, Noah. What a great interview. This time has just flown by. Thank you so much for cutting out some time for us today. You're doing such a great job at Finvisor. You and your co-founder and your entire team are really just sort of setting the standard for what I'm calling this on-demand CFO, Noah. So thank you so much for coming on the show today. This has been fantastic, and we look forward to bringing you back on the show again.
Likewise. Thanks for having me. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and it's been awesome talking to you.